Hey y'all, I have a mixed media layout for you today, and this one's using my watercolor resist paper that I came in my Secret Not Secret kit in April. This is from the One Canoe 2 Twilight collection, and I've gotten out my brand new Prima watercolors to use on this paper. And I really like how vibrant they are. I will say though that I did think it was a little bit weird that some of these flowers are water resist and some of them are not. And so being impatient, I just forced them to take the watercolor. Essentially just piled a bunch of watercolor on top until it just dried. Now the center flower, I didn't realize that the center flower would be completely watercolor resist as well. And that kind of caught me off guard. I knew there was going to be some water resist on the flower, but I didn't expect that the flower itself was water resist. I thought the paper around it was water resist to keep you from going outside of the lines. Well, that turns out not to be the case. So I don't end up using these distress oxides that I'd gotten out because I intended to do the center flower in those colors. So I did use a lot of the watercolor pigment on the flowers and on these leaves to get a nice rich color that goes along pretty well with the collection so that I could continue to use my kit on this layout for matting and things like that as well. Now at this point I didn't really have an idea of how I was going to use this paper once it was done. I just knew that I really wanted to try painting on it. It was very relaxing to sit here and paint. It took me quite a while to do it just because I was going rather slowly and trying to take my time. But it was a lot of fun to paint this paper, and then I had to figure out what to do with it. So now that the paper is done, dried, I fussy cut out 2 sections of flowers because I knew that I didn't want to use the whole big piece. I didn't want to cover up so much of the flower by using it as one big piece and then trying to fit a photo around it. So I created 2 separate sections of flowers. One of these small red flowers, kind of a coral really, but the other side is this larger cluster, and I'm going to use these 2 photos. These photos are of my dad and my daughter Sophia when she was roughly about 6 months old, I think. Maybe a little older than that, 7 or 8. It was around Christmas time of her first year of life, and they were just sitting on the couch chilling, and I just grabbed a couple of great pictures of the 2 of them, and Sophia is very gently petting his beard, which most of the kids found pretty fascinating about my dad, is his full beard, and she was just absolutely fascinated by it and just had such a look of adoration when she looked at him, and really, really loved that. So these 2 photos I've decided I'm going to put into a column down the center of the page. Just grabbed some cardstock in navy, and then I'm going to reach into my paper pad from the Twilight collection and get out this beautiful floral paper because there is a lot of pink in this photo thanks to her blanket. And I really wanted to incorporate that as well. So I've got all of the colors from the kit. I've got the coral, the navy, the little bit of dark green, and this beautiful pink. So I'm going to really make these photos the feature of this layout. And in order to do that, I am going to mat it 3 times so that your eye is drawn into the photos. And I'm going to use this a little bit of this pink paper, and then I'm going to use vellum as well. Just adds a little bit of softness around the photos. And I really love vellum. Vellum is one of those go-to things that I think it seems so subtle, but it adds so much to the layout in person. And so I'm just going to add a layer of vellum as well. And then we're going to do some very minor embellishing on this layout because those flowers are a pretty intense statement once you get them on that dark paper. So just going to play around with these just a little bit, try to find a good configuration. And I did have the 1 leaf and then all of these separate little flowers. And at first I was hesitant to cut them down any more than I'd already had because I didn't want to lose the form of the flowers. But as I started to just play around with them and add them to the page, I recognized I wasn't going to be able to keep them in their original form. It just was very unbalanced with all of the flowers on one side and the large green leafy bit on the other. So I do end up playing around with those, cutting up the green leafy bit to distribute it more equally on both sides of the photos. And then off screen, I splattered with some Heidi Swapp Color Shine and glued everything down. So now we're down to the bottom, and we're going to add some of this navy pom-pom trim, which does not create a large element on the page. It's not a very distinctive thing on the page, but it does add some texture, which is kind of nice because the rest of this layout is rather flat. And so I thought, oh, let's add a little bit of texture here at the bottom. And like I said, it doesn't add a ton to it. It doesn't draw your eye away from the photos for sure, and just adds a little bit of interest there at the bottom of the photos. And then after we add that, I decided I wanted to grab a little bit more pink to add to this layout because it was feeling very red. And there is a little bit of red in the photo because of my daughter's bib. She's a little red outline. It was Christmas, so she was wearing a little Christmas bib. And so I'm going to add one of my mixed media butterflies that is nice and pink. And these thickers, which are gold, will kind of make sense of the gold splatters, and the gold in the flowers kind of speaks to those things. And then I'm going to add some lovely pink alphas on as well. So you're going to get 3 hits of the red, 3 hits of the pink, and 3 hits of the gold. I also thought that it was feeling very airy and dreamy, and that's fine, but there is some brown in the background of this photo, so I thought let's add a little bit of cork and ground it just a little bit. I also thought, you know what, I think this needs even more pink. So I've added some resin flowers in a very pale pink, so they're not standing out a great deal, but they kind of break up the constant vine feel of those red flowers. And here are the Pink Fresh alphas that I chose to add, and the title here is just simply going to be Such Love because of the complete adoration that she has on her face looking at her papa. And this was a really sweet layout to do. Now I will have the other half of this layout in the still photos at the end, which is where I used the larger floral piece as a statement on a layout, and added a couple of photos alongside of it. I felt like you really couldn't avoid that. It was such a large floral cluster that you were just going to have a huge statement no matter what layout you put it on. So after adding these little cork pieces here, this layout is just about done. I just want to let you know I have started adding affiliate links into the description box below. That just helps me to buy supplies for my channel. They do not cost you any extra, and if you're looking for the supplies that I'm using, that is where to find them. Oh, I did add a word sticker here, and it says, always be on the lookout for the presence of wonder, and that is from Tim Holt's Small Talk. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Have a great and wonderful weekend. Until next time, bye!